Dark elf, as the name suggests, is the wicked dark elf who instills fear of her powerful curses into people. Her appearance is more like Yoruichi from Bleach, but a chibi version. Despite having such a powerful name, today she is about to meet her end and is cornered by a swordsman crow. She did not think she would lose to a lowly human. In this serious aura, Crow gives her two options if she would like to be cut into halves or if would receive the hospitality of his home, an absurd condition. She pauses for a moment and thinks that his hospitality might be savage acts or physical torment. She bluntly denies him to get hospitality like that. Cross comes into serious mode and is about to slash her. She shuts her eyes in fear of her death. But surprisingly, he carries her into his arms and says he has chosen the hospitality option by himself. She does not get why it has come to this. He tells her that he could not slay her because she is way too lovely. She blushes and shockingly asks him if he is screwing around her. She is the jet black barbarian princess, the reincarnation of Curse. He says that he is not screwing around her and does not care about it. He has stated facts and truths. She becomes annoyed and wants him to get off his filthy hands. She is a tiny girl in the large hands of a man. Out of nowhere, he starts shaking her, which makes her more annoyed. She considers he is making fun of her to let things go in his way, but she won't let it happen. Suddenly, the building starts to crumble and they are inside it. She hysterically laughs and says his plan of taking her home will fail with this. Instead, she will take him to the underworld as a souvenir. But with the increase in building crumble, she starts to tremble. He holds her gently, saying her not to worry, and runs to save their lives. He comforts her that it was scary, but she is safe now. She asks him after averting her eyes why he is going so far for her. He starts dangling her tiny body and calmly says hospitality is the only option. He gets going on his path. She speaks if he brings an incarnation of a curse into his home, he will regret it later. He absurdly replies to her that regardless of what she thinks about herself, she is not heavy at all. In fact, she is too light. She becomes angry and asks him to put her down right away. Crow is carrying her into his arms, and she is trembling with the thought that she is allowing herself to be taken away. She asks him why he is staring at her nonstop for a while. He replies that his dear memory is recalled when he looked at her. She is amazed by listening to the term dear memory and then gets annoyed when she learns the memory is the memory of a baby goat that he used to protect once upon a time. She curses him that she will get revenge on him one day. They sit around the campfire. She has no magical power left to fight back, and all she can do is find an opening and escape. There's a flowing river beside them, and a plan hits her that she can jump into the river. He holds her shoulder in a serious aura, asking her not to move, and unsheathes his sword. She is shocked if he learned what she is up to, but then he stupidly catches a fish by his sword to make something for her. He cuts fish into pieces and grills them in a campfire. Elves drool over the sizzling fish. He asks her to wait for a while, but she denies him that she won't accept it as a charity from him. It is simply an act of partaking in Fish's funeral. She reaches her hand for a fish piece. He hurriedly carries it and blows over to make it ready. She angrily takes a piece and turns away, thinking just who he takes her for. Even though it's hot, she takes a bite and finds it so delicious. She turns back and sees that he is staring at her and is reaching out another piece to her. She eats it with her heart content, and her belly has rounded as she has a baby. She looks at the moon, and another plan comes to her mind that she will run away when he falls asleep. But just as she says it, she herself falls asleep before he does. She wakes up under the sparkling sun and finds herself again being carried by him. She labels his act a cowardly one. He tells her he tried to wake her up each time, but her adorable sleeping face and delicate breathing like a little cute bird stopped him. She gets annoyed at being compared to a cute bird that he was ridiculing her for half the day. He informs her that it has been 3 days since she has slept, probably due to extreme magical depletion. He considers himself guilty that she was not able to enjoy the beautiful scenarios in their journey. But he has delightful news as well. They have reached home. She trembles and says there is nothing delightful about it. She did not think he would bring her into his house. If she is imprisoned, then she will be in trouble. He puts her on the ground and asks her to wait here. Following men's etiquette, he intends to do home cleaning and asks her not to peek inside no matter what while he is at it. She absent-mindedly promises him, and with that said, he enters his home. She turns around and runs towards the forest. She did not think he would let her out of his sight so easily. She enters the dark forest and halts for a moment. The dark entry reminds her of something, but without hesitating she runs towards it. Crow opens his door, apologizing to her that it took him longer than expected. He had to make various preparations besides cleaning. He finds she is not where he had put her, but is sitting at the doorstep and could not see her at first due to her tiny body. He welcomes her to his home. She enters thinking this is for the sake of reminding him how great and wicked she is, and as soon she is done with it, she will leave this place. But she gets surprised to see how cleansed his home is, and there is a meal already prepared for them. He has also prepared a small cute chair for her and asks her to sit down and relax while she is at it. He has made a special dish that she rates. It has no hard ingredients and the nutritional balance is perfect. Even in terms of appearance, it is first-rate. Lastly, he thanks her for coming back. She is shocked, wondering if she was found out. She tries to make excuses that she was looking for mushrooms. He agrees with her and gives her a tiny spoon and fork according to her many hands. It disturbs her and she yells at him to give her regular ones. When they are at it, he asks her if she will take off her clothes when she is done, and it leaves her surprised. Elf takes a bath in the tub and thinks about the time when Crow asked her to take off her clothes. She turns her head, saying she doesn't feel like bathing today. He encourages her that a bath is best when one is exhausted from traveling, and it's also a matter of her odor. Presently, she sniffs around her body, wondering if really smelt badly. She comes out of the bath wearing a small shirt and asks him about her clothes. He informs her that he washed them and left them to dry, and he is also done with carefully brushing her coat. He is about to say more about the odor lingering in his coat. She interrupts him that if he thought she smells badly, then he should not have brought her with him in the first place. He agrees with her that it might be true it is not a pleasant odor, but for him, it was a nice odor and he would like to continue to smell. He is a weird person and compares her odor to the smell of animals in forests. It leaves her jaw dropped that she smelled like a wild animal to him. Crow turns to the side, saying he has prepared something important for her. She is confused about what it might be and goes up to look at it. She climbs upstairs and sees a mini bed made special for her. She pats on the mattress and finds it so fluffy and cute. Crow also pops up and asks her opinion on this. She is annoyed by him coming up suddenly and says she is assessing the bed right now. She jumps on the bed, turns around, and rolls over it. She is not uncomfortable, but she is not used to it. Crow comes to her, saying, "What about they do it now?" She is terrified of what he is up to, but turns out that he puts her fluffy coat on her like a blanket. She comes at ease as everything around her is soft and gives him remarks that it barely passes. Crow acts as a doting parent and comes with a song to help her fall asleep. She yells at him there is no need. Listening to it, he turns off the lamp and lowers down, saying he needs her to wake up early. When he has not lowered down yet, she falls asleep hurriedly. In the morning, he wakes her up and in half sleep, she denies eating more fish. She wakes up completely when he tells her that he has not made fish yet, but he wants to get some milk. It shocks her, protecting her body. Later, her misunderstanding is cleared when they get out of the home to fetch milk, and she scolds him on saying such an inappropriate statement. She does not get why they have come out when the sun has not risen yet. He informs her that they can get milk at the right time when they are earlier, and they will be heading to a nearby village. She pouts and stops there, saying it's better if he heads out without her. If she will be with him, probably he might not be welcome. He asks her to rest assured and don't worry about it, as he will be there with her. She turns her head away, saying as if she would need to be protected by him. They reach almost at sight where she cannot see the village. He carries her into his arms and quickly jumps onto a hilltop, but there is nothing else, let alone a village. She is surprised and asks him if they have not come to get milk. She has just said it. A goat larger than her approaches her from back, and its sudden growling makes her scared. Later, he does milking and extracts milk into a jar and tells her that he fostered this goat when he found her weak and injured. Due to this reason, she occasionally comes here to offer her milk. He gives her a glass of milk that is freshly squeezed, but she does not take it. He misunderstands her and asks if she does not like milk, but she is scared of goat's intense stare and does not feel welcomed. He clears her misunderstanding that she is looking at her goatlings. She shows them to one she can trust. Elf looks at Mother Goat, who is making expressions as if she is saying Elf to look after her kids. The little goats come to her and cuddle her. Crow finds her so cute that she is allowing herself to be surrounded by goatlings. She misinterprets that he is calling those goatlings cute and says she prefers strong-looking ones, but these are cute. He creepily says these goats are also cute. She understands now, which makes her embarrassed and yells at him that she is Night Black Barbarian Princess and she has to babble more. The sun's rays strike them. She turns toward it in surprise. He calmly gives her a glass of milk, which she takes without making a commotion, and drinks it in a gulp. They both are at the hill experiencing the scenario. Elf has a review that sunlight looks as if it's melting morning mist. They can see the city of free trade, Yurai, one of the prominent cities on the continent. He decides to go shopping together, but she stops him there. But Kashu shows up there suddenly, then those in charge will take action. He informs her that the Night Black Princess is considered a diabolical with a terrible appearance. At first, she feels honored that she is assumed to be like this, but she gets surprised when listens to him assuring her that she will not be found out. They head out towards the city, and on the way, he tells her that there are residents of different races, so she will not stand out. They enter the city, which is bustling and crowded. He takes her to the shoe shop to get her shoes. She rejects him, saying she does not need any as she will get used to it. However, he is persistent that it does not serve the purpose of protecting her precious foot, and it will power up her appearance too. She imagines getting super fancy shoes to look more wicked. He shows her cute shoes, which she bluntly rejects, saying only fierce and wild would suit her. He shows her a shoe that looks like a bare foot, and he finds it adorable, wild, and fierce. It annoys her and gets into the shop, asking him to wait outside. She looks around the shop and her sight falls on a shoe pair. Someone appears behind her suddenly. He is the clerk of the shop and appreciates her choice that these are exactly fierce and wild. It has detachable fur that is overflowing with roughness, leather that shines brightly, and the last thing that he whispers into her ears is that it has a horizontal part that ups her height without noticing it. She gives a try to these shoes and finds it increases her height a little bit. She goes to Crow, where she shines with honor, and asks him to behold her new look. She wants to be called a wicked one by him, but he calls her flawless adorable, which shatters her hopes. Clerk knows he has made her think these are good, and they do not really change her height. But Crow comments that she looks taller considering the shape of her shoes. It somehow makes her feel achieved. When they are about to go, that clerk calls her from back and whispers that she has got a nice boyfriend. She makes a pout and says he is just a pillager. Crow takes her to the food street and informs her that it is one of the city's many squares, and the food stalls that line these squares are what support the city's economy. Elf has been sensing a smell coming out of the stall. Crow tells her that it's flame potato stall and it's spicy, which is not to his taste. She comes up with the idea that if she eats what he cannot, then he might accept her being wicked and submit to her. He buys her a pack and hesitates to give it to her, but ends up giving it when she proudly says there is no such spicy thing as long as he is the wicked one. She takes a bite, but it's hot spicy, burning her tongue. However, she does not give up in front of him. He goes away to buy some ingredients and asks her to take a seat and enjoy her meal. She comes close to bushes to throw the food when he is away, but a child appears and asks her what she is doing. Her mom says they should not waste food. Elf proudly introduces herself as a wicked elf who can waste her food without any remorse. Child has an expressionless face and asks her what she means by wicked. She makes Kid understand that a wicked person is a super bad person and tries to terrify her, but that kid starts crying and says his mother is lost. She pats on her head and comforts her by asking her to wait until her servant returns. Crow comes back and learns about the kid from Elf. Seeing she is holding the kid's hand, he comments that she is still nice. She blushes and says she has done it on a whim. Crow carries that kid on his shoulder and loudly shouts to the mother that they have her precious kid in their custody. Soon, the mother finds them and thanks them after retrieving her kid. That kid runs to Elf and hugs her to say thanks, and then she returns to her mother. Elf is still carrying her pack of potatoes, and Crow asks her if she will not eat them. She makes the excuse that she is just full. He takes them from her, saying he had asked the owner to make them less spicy so he can eat them. He offers her a bear lollipop as a palate cleanser. She is confused, wondering if knew about it. She snatches it from him and curses that she was playing right on his palms. She decides to strike on him again tomorrow. Elf wakes up after having a nice sleep and looks at Crow down preparing things for breakfast. She gives an evil smirk and dresses up while thinking she could not accept the humiliation that she was defeated by him. Her curse powers and strength have been restored at this moment. Moreover, Crow is low on guard. She walks toward him in a sneaky way and takes advantage of this opportunity to retaliate. She plans to use her curse and powers to knock him down and make him submit to her. But before she reaches him, she makes a sound due to stomach ache. Crow turns to her, and after Great's morning, he asks her about her pose. She pauses, wondering why her curses are not working on him, and suspects that he might have resistance to curses. She recalls the sudden stomach ache, tripping on the ground, and having mushrooms flying out of nowhere in the last battle, and finally understands her curses were coming back to her. Due to severe stomach ache, he takes her to his bed. He takes the blame on himself that it might be caused by something he has made. He goes out looking for a healer in the city for her treatment. Back there, Elf turns on the bed and sniffs, which smells like him. Soon, he comes back with the doctor, who gets shocked when she looks at her. Crow asks her what seems to be the problem with Elf. She replies with sparkles in her eyes that she is so cute. She examines her for stomach ache and surprisingly asks what it is. Crow asks her worryingly what the problem is, and she tells him that Elf's belly is squishy. This time, she examines her correctly that there are traces of being afflicted with a curse. Crow inquires if it's a curse of cuteness, but Doctor declines and says there is something odd about it. It does not have malice and hatred, but hesitation and consideration. A curse is a curse, so she activates her magic to dispel it, but it's not easy for her. She thought it was her imagination, but it has become clear to her that there is something ominous and powerful inside her. She is constantly monitoring her, which disturbs Elf, and she asks her how long she will keep touching her because it has started tickling her. After that, Doctor asks Crow not to pay for treatment and in exchange, turns to Elf saying she has a small request. Crow and Elf take rounds of the city along with Doctor, as she is new in the city. She introduces herself by the name Miltina Artnan and has arrived 2 days ago from Belsasos from the north. The small request Miltina had from her was the introduction of a good restaurant in the city. Elf walks ahead and says why she would bother to come along with them for silly tasks. Miltina does not consider them silly but important when coming to the new land. She clings on Elf again that she came along despite saying all this stuff. Crow considers it a problem to find a restaurant that serves delicious food with cute arrangements, and it makes Elf angry, who yells at him to focus on just delicious part. They keep on walking with Crow thinking about a restaurant serving cute dishes. They arrive at the food street that is close to the fish market and is known for the variety and freshness of seafood. Eating while moving across these stalls is considered one of the ways to enjoy the city. When Elf is drooling over some food, Miltina brings some unidentified food to her to taste it. They both take its bite and find it delicious. Crow tells them that it's the fried Tadare fish. Despite its good taste, many people are reluctant to try it due to its appearance. Crow is standing near that creepy Tadare fish, and no wonder why people do not prefer to eat it. Miltina has reviews that it has a charming face, and Elf says its looks do not have to do with its taste. They roam around the street and try different food. Finally, they end it after stuffing their bellies to their fullest. They come across the sea, where Miltina thanks them for taking their time and making her day a fun day. Elf wants her not to exaggerate things, but for Miltina, it's not an exaggeration because it's the day when she met her friend. With saying that, she holds Elf's hand and says they are friends. Elf is cocky and does not need something like this. Miltina interrupts her that she was excited to come into a new place, but she also felt lonesome. Elf blushes and says she would not call it friendship, but she would not mind going shopping together. Miltina hugs her and whispers to her that she will be fine, which Elf herself does not get what she means by it. Miltina sniffs around her hair and discovers her smell is so soothing. Crow asks Miltina what job she would like to do. If she has not decided, then she can help him in his work. Miltina appreciates the offer, but asks him the reason. He tells her that he was hoping in the process of working together, she can deepen her friendship with Elf. Miltina readily agrees to work for him. Elf thinks about it and surprisingly asks him if it means she will also be helping them. He takes them to the North District's quest agency. It is where he works. Elf bluntly refuses to aid him in his work, and beyond this point, he has to go with Miltina. She refers to her as Miss Flowers for brains. Crow says he has come here for a special reason, and both girls have to wait outside. Elf's mind brims with another idea that he has a weakness which he does not want to find out, and if she grasps it, then it can be his weakness. Crow goes inside the building and Elf follows him. Miltina also follows her and whispers that he forbade them to follow him. Beside this place is the den of bounty hunters. Elf takes Miltina's robe and sneaks into the building. She can overhear the hunters gossiping about Crow. Miltina also appears behind Elf and wonders if Crow is infamous. They both are trying to hide, but are clearly visible to the old man. On first glimpse, he can tell they both are new in this city and tells them about Crow that he is known as the one who is overblessed by Goddess. Elf does not know about Goddess Blessing and learns from Miltina that it's a miraculous power that grants people special abilities. A blessing's nature and magnitude come in different types, but he has got one that is from another world. He takes brutal tasks on his own with a success rate of 100%. Crow goes to the reception to report on his last quest. The ones in reception thank him and give him the reward for this case, but he refuses to take them, saying he has failed this quest. The receptionists and others find it so shocking that he failed. The last quest was the subjugation of the Night Black barbarian princess. They ask him if she was a strong opponent. He agrees with them, saying the moment he saw her, his mind went blank. For some reason, his body turned hot and he felt tightness in his chest. Receptionist thinks he might be having bodily destruction from inside and asks him what he intends to do from now on. He tells her that he is prepared to dedicate everything he has to her, and receptionist has a review that he is determined for a rematch. Miltina says Night Black Princess seems terrifying and looks at Elf, who is trembling, and comes out of there. Elf pouts that he turns out to be some famous person. It clicks her mind that if she manages to complete the quest before he does, then it would prove she has powers greater than him. Crow also comes out and thanks them for their patience. He has found 2 candidates while looking for quests that would be liking to Elf, Mountain Gateway, and Ocean Resort. He can handle quests by himself and wants them to prioritize sightseeing while they are at it. When Elf is worrying about her plan, Miltina raises her hand for going option, Mountain Gateway, which makes Elf pissed off. While taking a bath, Elf sulks thinking about the quests, but she has realized something. It will work out as long as she ignores his nonsense. She will be the one finishing the quests first and proving she is the strongest. She comes back from a bath and feels refreshed. It's dark outside and someone seems to be observing her, and snaps out when she opens the door of Crow's home. She looks at Crow carrying her bed and asks him what he is doing. He says he is doing packing rehearsals for the quests and thought a simple mat is just too hard. She rudely asks him to leave it, and she has had enough of him. Miltina is also excited about the quest and has to make preparations, but before that, she opens an ancient grimoire manuscript. She comes to the page where the mark is printed, which is the same as Elf has on her head. It's a common shape and anyone can have it, but she is suspicious of the ominous power she feels from Elf. She reads the meaning behind this and becomes shocked. Back there, Crow even insists on taking her chair along with them and tries to make her understand that he will not be able to give quality care like this, and no one knows what might happen. She says he was not carrying luggage back them during her subjugation. He agrees with her and says that things are different from this and that time, and she is his priority now. She blushes and turns away. She wants to cool off her head in the forest, and he advises her not to go to the dark forest as it is full of danger. It pisses her off that he seems to be forgetting something. She resides in the darkness of night and is born from the wicked curse. She comes out of the house in anger and bumps into a huge monster. Before she does anything, he carries her in the air. Crow also comes out and introduces her to this monster that he is Troll, who looks after his home when he is out.
Hey!
Troll also finds her cute and shakes her up and down. Miltina closes the book and thinks of reading ancient manuscripts first. She wonders what Elf would be doing right now. They are ready to embark on their journey. Elf never thought she would go on a quest, and in this journey, she will manifest her powers and wickedness to stupid Crow. When she is in a serious mood, Miltina has flowers blooming out of her. She clings to Elf that they will be having fun in quests. Crow returns with a serious face and tells them worryingly that there are 2 problems before they can depart. The first one is he has not decided on their lunch menu, and this statement makes her irritated. She yells at him not to say such idiotic things with a face like a stone Buddha. The other is that they will be accompanying the caravan for a while. They come abroad on the caravan, where Elf asks him the reason for accompanying it. He informs them that it seems a formidable group of bandits have appeared. The victims who have faced them do not have much to say about them beyond formidable. When he is talking about a serious topic, Miltina is munching her bread for breakfast. Elf yells at her that it's a matter of urgency, but she also starts munching bread, which Miltina gives her. Crow is also serious and says, "That's right," which makes Elf ask him if he has figured out something. He shares his opinion of using a variety of ingredients with bread. She is irritated after listening to it. Miltina also makes her attentive as it's about bandits, but she is rubbing against the caravan and asks Elf to check its fluffiness. She considers them an unreliable bunch of group and has to pull up by herself, but ends up sleeping there. After some time, she wakes up and finds herself lying on his shoulders. She is embarrassed and confused about what to do now. She plans to keep pretending to be asleep and lean toward Miltina's side, but Miltina herself leans toward Elf in sleep, which pisses her off. Suddenly, Caravan starts shaking and wakes Miltina up. The rider informs them they are completely surrounded. Elf assumes they are bandits and stands up to show off her power to those bandits. But they see there are no bandits. Instead, there are rats asking them to hand over their food. Miltina has heard these rats are very clever and good at imitating voices. It opens Elf's eyes, wondering if these little ones are revered as formidable bandits. They come off the caravan and give their food to those rats. Miltina observes Elf has been quiet for a while and asks her about it. She says while pouting that it was not how supposed to go. Crow tries to calm her down by saying the best part of the trip has yet to come and tomorrow they will be heading to a scenic lakeside village on foot. As usual, it makes her angry to yell at him. In the next scene, we see a pack of wolves gathered near the city. They arrive at the village, which seems a tranquil and nice place to live in, but in front of them, it is gonna be attacked by a pack of wolves. Crow wants to check in on the situation and ask others to stay somewhere safe, but Elf is persistent in her own way and wants to show off her powers. It's scary to her a little bit, but it is how she could demonstrate her powers. In the next moment, they all end up being surrounded by bandits. Miltina could not stay behind alone as it was also scary. Elf makes her pose to attack them. Crow asks her to hold on and intends to initiate conversing with them. Elf inquires her how they will do it, and he makes an absurd statement while showing his back to the wolf that they will start by greeting them. He gets on her nerves. She asks Miltina to stay on guard, but sees Miltina also showing her back to a wolf who is sniffing her. While she is at it, Miltina alerts her about the wolves behind her sniffing her, who then go to the pack's boss. Boss comes to her and rubs her back. Miltina thinks Elf is kind of popular and Crow asks her to stay calm. Then he growls and makes a submissive pose. Crow is impressed by her, which makes her feel proud, and she says he finally has realized how great she is. However, Crow means she possesses a truly impressive smell that triggers her anger. The village chief comes out and shows his reviews that he is impressed by them. They have made it through the pack. Miltina asks him how it had ended up like this. Wolves usually don't approach any village. Chief also doesn't seem to know the reason. Crow checks the ground, and it seems he has identified the cause. He leads others to the storage shed. Elf is curious, asking if it's because of this shed. Crow tells her that it's not shed, instead what's inside. He points to the left in the shadow of tools and finds out there is a wolf pup. There were footprints leading from the gate to this shed. It would be nice if it had come to the village on its own, but it's frightened. Miltina asks Elf to greet the pup, but she bluntly denies it. Crow says they have no choice other than being rough to him. To see the pup shivering and frightened, Elf asks him to hold on and goes to the pup to show her back and says him to go back village. That pup jumps onto her and licks her face. Even other wolves surround her completely. Later, the wolf pack returns to the forest, and Miltina comes to the conclusion and says while hugging that Elf surely has a miraculous bottom. Elf argues back, and while they are at it, Crow seriously goes to the chief asking for a satisfactory explanation. Crow asks Chief for a satisfactory explanation. Chief spills the beans that there has been a small dispute regarding one of his companions, Elf. Crow asks him if he does not want them to stay in this village. That Chief refuses and says that he will be discussing this matter with the people of village, so he wants Crow and his party to wait for a while. Elf hysterically laughs and asks them to leave now. Miltina grabs her hand and turns to the village that it has been along in the continent since the Dark Elves were considered ill omens, the ones who tried to destroy the world. But could these sinister beings be loved guardians of forests? How can these beings have such chewy cheeks? Some are good, and those are bad in every race. Miltina requests them not to decide on their prejudice. After her impressive speech, those villagers surround Elf and welcome her into the village. At night, Miltina comes to sit with Elf after her permission. Elf has been observing a shed where everyone is so pleased and merry. It's because Crow has volunteered for the banquet preparations and his cutting skills are too divine. Elf hopes that he does not get carried away and does absurd things. Miltina brings up another topic regarding Elf and asks her about her name. Elf denies it and turns gloomy. Miltina says if Elf ever feels ready, then she would be happy to listen to it. Elf continues that it's not in her hands because she does not remember her name. Crow arrives there and informs them about the completion of banquet preparations. Elf comes out and drools at the food presented on the table. She blushes and says that Crow knew how to behave himself this time. Crow comes ahead and puts a stone statue of Elf in the center, and says he presents them this status in commemoration of this joyous day. Miltina looks at Elf from the corners of her eyes and says love can be heavy as a stone status. Elf gets embarrassed and yells at him to sink this statue in the lake this instant. They reach a mountain where Crow informs others that their current destination lies a little further ahead and they have to cross this mountain path. An old man seems to be listening to them, just as when you see horror movies where he makes the main character alert about horror incidents or a creepy creature lurking on the path ahead. Similarly, this man informs them if they plan to go this path, then they must avoid the cave coming in their way. It is said a dubious sorcerer lives inside it. Crow suggests they should change the route if he is worried, although this path is reputed for its splendid scenery. Elf holds them and proudly says what if a sorcerer lives there? They have got a curse incarnate. Moving on their path, they come across the cave whose opening is closed by a string of skulls. They have to avoid it, but Elf goes to the skulls and checks one of them. She considers that sorcerer has poor taste, but the string breaks apart while holding a skull. She gently puts it down and intends to move ahead, but when she gets up, others observe she has large ears like rabbits grown up on her head. Elf gets in panic. Miltina assesses the ears and finds out it's because of the curse, and she can dispel it. However, its magic structure is complicated and it will take a while. Soon, her nose also changes into one like a rabbit's. That sorcerer shows up while hysterically laughing and asks if they have learned their lesson, but sees Elf is infuriated over him and curses him without any remorse. Miltina holds Elf down and says to the sorcerer that they will make string as it was before and asks his forgiveness. That sorcerer does not seem to forgive them because of the Elf's attitude and refers to her as Biddy Elf, which makes her more furious. Seeing she is not apologetic at all, he turns her hands into ones like rabbits. Miltina makes her understand to apologize to him, otherwise she will be converted into a rabbit completely. That old man puts this topic aside and asks Elf about the coat she is wearing. She has got it from where and if by any chance she knows an old woman who goes by the name Geruda. Elf calms down and asks him how come he knows her granny. She further says that Granny is dead and it's her memento. That old man changes his tone as he had a friendly relationship with Granny and says she was a very tough old woman. Miltina whispers to Elf that this old man will change her back to normal for the sake of his acquaintance, but he says she will stay like this forever. It makes him sick remembering that Dan woman and this ears of Elf reminds him of her. Elf is again pissed off that these ears are his spells and she shouts at him. Crow steps ahead and calmly asks Old Man to transfer her punishment to him. Old Man asks him if he wants to be her scapegoat and for what reason. Crow says he has pledged himself to become her shield, even if it means turning into a rabbit for life. Crow stares at her and she blushes hardly while looking away. He asks her if she would mind keeping those ears, but end up turning into half rabbit with its ears, and they move ahead on their way. At the back, Old Man says it takes half a day for the magic to wane off, but he could not say it due to his mood. Moreover, he is impressed by Crow that he had such resistance, he never thought his spells would be knocked back. The interesting thing is that Elf, which seems trouble, will be coming to the village. They reach a place where they can enjoy the majestic scenery, but there is something weird going on. Crow has a spell on him and asks others not to be concerned about it, but the thing is he is not like a rabbit. Instead, he has a bald head with rabbit ears, like some alien. Miltina thinks that it might be halfway, and Crow considers she is talking about their journey and says their journey is proceeding as planned. They will reach their destination, Tower of Hope, by tomorrow. They arrive at their destination city, Norber the city under the tower. There is a Tower of Hope, which is the ruins of an ancient civilization. If someone looks at it up close, it's really a huge one. Elf smirks that these ancient ruins have a scale worthy of her. Crown talks about the quest, which is exploring these ruins in search of relics, and after listening to it, Elf's eyes sparkle with excitement that it would be a treasure hunt. Miltina shares the opinion that treasure is treasure, but ancient sites, including this tower, have already been investigated and most valuable items have been recovered. On the other hand, Relics would be those items that are remains of basic necessities. Elf considers these items trash, but Miltina tries to make her understand that these are not trash. These are traded at high prices among collectors even though they look worthless. Crown says this time he has chosen such quests so these girls could enjoy them safely. Elf yells at them not to screw with her and refuses to pick up the trash. Miltina further speaks that the tower is named after legend, which is even told to this day. There is a holy beast living in a hidden room in the tower, and no one has seen it yet. It is said if someone gets along well with it, then his wishes come true. This legend lures her into accepting this quest, and she brims with interest. They enter the tower, and other people who seem to be observing them get surprised when they see Crow and his team have disappeared. Crow and his party feel something strange, and suddenly a darkness surrounds them. Miltina lights up the interior through her magic, and they find a huge beast lying ahead. Miltina considers that it might be the corpse of the holy beast they were talking about, and Elf is confused, wondering why it's a dried-up beast. Miltina also doesn't know about the details. The reason can be that the ancients have locked him in there. Crow and Miltina observe their surroundings, that there are no exits, and that the materials of the floors and walls might be adamantite. Many layers of strengthening magic and barrier magic. In other words, this beast has been always like this. Elf does not like him being captured alone for years and calling it the Tower of Hope. She goes to the beast and pats his head with the wish that there could be window and his soul might be free. Suddenly, the walls with circular patterns shine and that beast opens his eyes and rises up. Elf gets terrified and hides behind Miltina, asking for buying time. She is a scaredy cat but shows off as she is some ranged woman. That beast says that the new master's order has been accepted by Alciphon. Miltina knows Alciphon by the myth where the holy beast appears as the messenger of the goddess. Crow quickly creates a barrier around the girls and himself because the holy beast generates a concentrated energy at one point and throws outward in the tower's top, creating an opening. Miltina is surprised that enhanced adamantite has been melted like a starch syrup and looking up beast's power. It seems ancient people judged its power and sealed it. She asks Elf what she did this time, so she replies that she just said her condolences. She wished to open a window and prayed for the freedom of his soul. Miltina, in panic, asks Elf to cancel the wish. Elf asks that beast if he were that powerful, then why is he still sitting at a place like that? And then learns from beast that he was ordered to do so. Elf says to Miltina that if someone obeys his master to the point where he dries himself, then how he can be dangerous. She asks him what he is doing right now, and he tells that he is enjoying his freedom as he likes looking at clouds. It pisses her off that there is much more to do outside. Beast has self-esteem and considers it a bit selfish of him. But Elf does not care, and seeing her persistent, he turns into a small puppy-like form and comes to Elf. He rolls around the ground like a puppy. Elf wonders where that ferocious beast has gone. Instead, a soft and fluffy beast has come. In this small form, he can't communicate and has not spoken for a while. He climbs on her shoulders and assimilates in her white robe. Crow is also there and talks with Beast, asking if he would not mind coming with him. Fortunately, they have enough space at home. Moreover, Elf and Holy Beast would make the strongest duo. Elf sniggers and says that the power of the curse and destructive power sure, when combined, would make an overwhelming destructive power. But Crow, as customary, does not mean their combination would result in destructive power. Instead, it's the adorable thing he has seen. Elf goes from being arrogant to the cute blushing one. Miltina interrupts them and asks them to think of a way to get down from the tower. Miltina thinks it might be impossible, but Crow declines it, saying with a serious face that he can run down with both of them in his arms. Alciphon comes down from Elf's shoulder and turns into his large form outside the tower. They jump over his back and Elf praises him that his destructive power was amazing. He also says back that he would do it as long as it's in order. Elf jumps over the back of the beast, Alciphon, which is so fluffy, and ends up getting drowned, but it is her nightmare. She gets up holding the Alciphon and never thought she would get hold of it. Her clever short mind thinks of the idea of showing off in front of Crow and making him acknowledge her greatness. She comes down and does not find Crow anywhere. Beast goes to a letter written by Crow that he has gone to shop in the city. He has made soup in the pot and advises her to mix it well and eat as many vegetables as possible. She is pissed off that he is treating her like a child. Soon, Miltina also arrives there and greets her and the little beast. Before she says further anything, Elf apologizes to her and says no. She says that she has come here because Alsifin promised her to talk to him today. Elf is like a spoiled child and does not heed whatever Miltina says, instead asks her to look after the house while she is gone. She orders Alsifin to turn back and rides over it toward the city. Miltina makes her stop to tell her she appears from the sky along with Alsifin, then panic will be created in the town. Listening to it, she comes down back. Miltina gets excited inside that she will approach the truths of the ancients and many more questions. Before she inquires anything, Elf asks him if he can go smaller, then can he become larger. He becomes bigger on her order and her childish mind wishes for him to grow more, but Alsifin is an experienced beast and says there is a risk of damaging trees. Miltina is relieved that he is so considerate and asks him to return to his previous size. Miltina is concerned about ancient history and that it has something to do with dark elves, which can be proved by the incidents caused by Elfin Hope Tower. She wonders if she can reach the mystery of dark elves. When she is about to ask him about his previous master, Elf interrupts her, asking him if he does not get hungry in this form. He has not eaten anything since yesterday. He informs her that he does not need to eat anything. As long as there is power around him, he can do anything. Elf wonders about a goofy question that why he has a mouth, and she turns to Miltina for its answer. Miltina shares her opinion that it might be a hobby of ancient people. They used to create magical beasts with magic. Elf is surprised that he might be created by magic. Miltina is also not sure and has guessed, but there is one thing she knows, which is to touch his fluffy hide. She feels embarrassed and asks him about his previous master. Alsifin does not say anything and, in turn, returns to his small puppy form and runs to Elf. Elf asks him if he is not going to answer her, but he is not able to speak in his form and looks gloomy. Miltina understands his situation and decides to ask him another time. He has been alone for a long time and a lot is going on for him right now. Crow also returns carrying bags. Elf gets angry over him and yells at him where he went to and did not take her along. He replies that he wrote a letter for her and didn't want to disturb her healthy sleep. She says he's underestimating the jet-black barbarian princess who won't listen to his excuses. Miltina also has been listening to her and gets confused that whatever Elf said seems to have important information. Crow and Elf come back to Quest's agency. Elf wants him to get quests that are not so simple, like the Tower of Hope. Alsifin on her shoulders starts crying and she comforts him that she did not say anything bad to him. Crow goes to the reception and informs receptionist that he has collected the relic, but for some reason, he can't hand over it. Instead, he hands over the adamant ore recovered from the Tower of Hope. She is surprised to see this ore and goes onto the quest list where she has prepared an S-rank question for him. Elf appears from his back and asks what's S-rank. She tells her that quests are ranked according to difficulty level, starting from E and goes to S. Elf sniggers and likes to get this quest, but Crow declines this request, saying this time he wants to get an E-rank quest. After receiving it, he comes out of the agency, and at the back, everyone gets surprised that he took an E-level quest, which even a kid easily can do. Crow and Elf start their quest, and we see them running after something. Elf seems to be having trouble, and finally, she captures it. It is the dog she was going after, and she returns it to its owner. At first, she feels honored but then feels disgusted because she has heard what E-rank means. She is frustrated over Crow and how dare he underestimate her and let her search for a lost pet. He says with a plain face that he was not underestimating her, but it looked like she was having fun. He intends to tell her the details of this case, but she does not let him say anything. He continues to say that he has always been running away from memories of his past, continuing to challenge high-difficulty quests in succession, to keep his mind busy and not thinking about anything else, but everything has changed when she came to his house. He has more time to smile. Every day is so fresh and precious, and from now on, he wants to engrave such moments with her in his memory. Elf blushes and in frustration says he is an idiot. He is the one who attacked her, and to retaliate, she has been sharpening her fangs to land an attack on him. Crow even does mind having her attack on him and is ready to accept her fangs. She does not say anything back and asks him how it connects with E-rank quests. He shows her a stack of paper and tells her that a large number of E-rank quests occur every day and most of them remain untouched. They will be making memories with them. It pisses her off, but she still goes ahead. Crow, with his stone Buddha face, thinks he will have a good day and feels his face refreshed with a smile, even though it's the same whether he smiles or not, just like a stone Buddha face. Crow looks at bowl Elf left and finds she has not eaten vegetables, so he asks her there is still left. She tells him that she does not like vegetables. He insists that she has to eat them even if she likes them or not. It's important for her healthy growth. She does not care about her health and even finds it assuring that she would look like a child of the curse. They argue about it and Alciphon listens to them. She gets fed by his yapping and goes out in town to eat whatever she likes. She wants to go outdoor street but decides to see something in the market. Her sight falls on something round food. She wants to start from here, but the shopman yells at her not to stand in front of her store. She is confused if he is worried about money, then she has them, but he is not concerned about it. Some of her kind were hanging around his store and it made him annoying. Suddenly, a woman holds her and argues with man about what his problem is. As long as someone follows the rules, he should have the spirit to accept anyone being a merchant. Other ladies also swarm that shop and decide not to visit it ever. This lady takes Elf away and her child runs toward them. It's the same child whom she helped once by finding her mother. She takes Elf to her store, which is a grocery store. Child brings something to drink for Elf, and then her mother brings seafood stew. Elf makes faces after looking at the vegetables present in a stew. Mother offers to replace the ingredients, but her kid considers it unfair because she always tells kid to eat everything. Later we see Elf finish her dish made with vegetables and appreciate that it was delicious. After greetings, she rushes through the town and on the way meets Crow. He was worried about her that she had not returned yet and asks her why she was in a hurry. She does not tell him about what happened and yells back at him that she was not in a hurry. We see a woman helping some people by slashing a large monster. They thank her for saving their lives. She reaches the front head of Crow's home and has heard of him because he is a famous swordsman. She greets him and no one replies. After repetition, Elf says that there is no one. Despite that, that woman thinks it's Crow and says it's a pleasure to meet him. Elf opens the door slightly and tells her that he went to pick mushrooms in the forest. So she sits at the front head of the house to wait for him, and Elf keeps staring at her. Elf asks about her business with Crow and learns she is Akane from Hinamoto, the country of the east, and has come to request a duel with Crow. As soon as she mentions duel, she starts sensing an ominous presence from the door and stands on her guard. Elf says if she holds back, then she will let her go because Crow is her prey. She completely shows herself and introduces herself as a jet-black barbarian princess. Akane comes onto her knees, saying a surprise attack is a cowardly move, and soon she starts bleeding from her mouth. Elf seems worried about her and asks if she has a disease. Akane agrees that she can't hide anymore. She has a disease where she can start vomiting blood whenever she sees cute things. It turns out it's not vomiting blood, but nose bleeding. Akane tries to stand on her feet, saying this blood loss won't be a hindrance in her duel, but she is wobbling and unable to stand. When her sight falls on Alciphon, her nosebleed goes out of control, and she loses her stand. As long as she has this disease, she won't be able to stand. Crow also returns carrying large mushrooms and seems to have listened to all this. He advises her that she needs to look back at herself and rethink it all again. There are hidden hints in this disease that bring out true strength. Akane gets up and walks with the support of her cane and plans to come again when gets better. Crow turns to Elf and asks her to stop doing reckless things. It makes her flushing hard and frustrated. While they are at it, Miltina is on her way to Elf, but sees Akane lying on the ground. When Elf is enjoying her dish, suddenly her appearance turns into one like a bear. She is shocked by what happened, and despite that, Crow is standing emotionless, guessing that these are bear paws. She recalls that it has happened before and opens the door, saying she knows he is here. It's that sorcerer old man flying in the air and giving a creepy smile. She yells at him to return her to normal. That man lowers down and turns her into a bear, saying she was a bear after all. He makes an excuse that he was hungry, so his hands got slipped, and then asks Crow to give him something to eat. Old man eats his dish rushly and appreciates it when he is done. Elf is furious over him and asks him to return her normal. However, this man is also persistent and terrifies her. If she is in a hurry, then she will shrink even more. He changes the topic to her granny that he still can't believe she is dead. She had the life force of a monster, or even more than that. Elf shouts at him not to badmouth about her granny. She used to get scared when Granny got angry, but Granny did not joke around like this old man. She was very supportive and was a benefactor when Elf had nowhere to go. She does not get what he is trying to achieve by teasing her and badmouthing Granny, and if he has come all the way here only for that. That snitch man agrees with her that it is part, and the other thing is that he has come to ask where her granny's grave is. Elf is suspicious if he is willing to go that far to open up the tomb and confirms it. This time, Old Man disagrees and says he has had a bad relationship with her. They used to travel together when they were young. He is the only one left who has to keep going unless he turns into a ghost. After that, Old Man comes out to visit Granny's grave. Only Elf is out, so he asks her if she has expressed herself to him yet, but she does not know what he is talking about. He appreciates that he has got a good partner. He moves ahead saying she has to do it now and disappears after introducing his name as Mazala. Crow also comes out and has been preparing lunch for him. Elf is left amazed and blushed. She can't accept her feelings for Crow and runs to the house, hiding her face. Akane is at Miltina's house and wakes up after having a rest. Miltina tells her that she found her on the ground and brought her to take care of her. She brings water, but in a cute cup, and to see how cute it is, Akane tries to hold on to his nosebleed. She says she is a little sensitive due to some kind of sickness and almost developed into a chronic disease. She can't repay her kindness with blood. Akane is about to bring something to eat, but Akane stops her and insists on giving her a treat. Akane cannot see her shoes, so Miltina tells her that she keeps shoes at the entrance. Akane's shoes are suitable for outside, but inside, she can wear slippers that are cute ones in barefoot shape. Akane avoids wearing them and appreciates her feelings. They come out in town, and while roaming, Miltina asks her if she has come alone since Hinamoto. She agrees that she has come by crossing swords with the best swordsman. Miltina is curious to know if her condition was due to a duel with someone. She disagrees and says he was taken by surprise twice. Miltina imagines him beaten by Pans. They listen to some sturdy guys threatening a woman, blaming her that she had put a mantis in his dish, and that woman defends herself that it can't come into her cooking. Akane also gets into the matter by saying she ate several bugs on her way, and these mantis turn red when they are heated. From the looks of this mantis, its color has not changed, which means it was mixed after cooking. Those sturdy guys do not want to lose their stand and try to threaten Akane if she knows who they are, but Akane unsheathes her sword and slashes their pants buckle. She asks them to leave money and get out of there. They hold their pants and make their leave. The owner of the shop is that woman who supported Elf back there. She thanks Akane for saving her day and goes to bring a menu. Her small kid brings a menu which surprises Akane out of cuteness. She tries to hold on and thinks she has always rejected cute things. Maybe the pressure in his heart was causing that bloody catastrophe, and it would work out if she tried to accept it without rejecting it. When she looks at that kid again, finds out a small cute Alciphan is lying over her head. Soon, Elf and Crow also arrive there and find Akane nose bleeding with a blood fountain. Later, Akane wakes up and finds herself again in Milshin's house. She gets up to apologize to her for taking care of her twice, but sees Crow is also there. Miltina asks her to lower down her voice because Elf is sleeping. She looks at her and gets amazed to see a cute sleeping elf. Miltina is at Crow and Elf's home, and they have been roasting mushrooms in the garden. Elf calls it a mushroom festival. She asks Miltina if Akane is still at her house and learns she will be staying there for a while and was not ready to come here yet. Miltina didn't expect Mushroom to be this large, and Elf is excited and goes on yapping random stuff about mushrooms. Alciphan tries to say something directed toward the fire that makes Elf conscious of the fire. They find it strange that the fire is weakening as it's going to disappear. Crow notices something and asks others to step back because something is coming from fire. Suddenly, a small creature emerges out of the fire. Miltina readily recognizes it as its salamander, a spirit of fire that is difficult for people to see with their eyes. Elf is infuriated by him because he ruined her mushroom festival. Miltina informs her about a saying that if one is kind to spirits, then something good happens to them. Elf changes her attitude and asks Salamander not to worry. She is the incarnation of the very kind and gentle curse. Salamander speaks and asks Elf to head pat him. He learned from fairies that she liberated the holy beast from the empty cage. Elf hesitates because Salamander is surrounded by a burning fire and she is not good at it. She asks him to ask for another wish, but he declines. She is curious to know why he needs head pats. Then we see he has been watching people who head pat their kids, which makes them happy. He asks her if the touch feels good. Elf becomes serious and asks Miltina to apply fire resistance magic on her. She goes to Salamander and tries to head pat, but his head deforms. Fire resistance magic does not increase the durability of the object itself because it is a kind of barrier that makes it difficult for heat to reach the object. Maybe she can't touch Salamander due to the barrier to the fire. She carries a stake of mushrooms and head pats him. She is killing 2 birds with 1 stone, grilling mushrooms and head pat, but Salamander is not satisfied with it either. She finally says they have got no other choice as she is going to use her head hands, but she pushes Miltina to head pat him. When she is at it, Crow head pats him and does not find him that much hot because Crow is slightly tough. Elf seems concerned about something, so Crow asks her not to worry about the damage he is receiving, but Elf is not worried about him, but has another query about why he is half naked like Gray of Fairy Tale. He says he was precautious that his clothes might burn. He takes Salamander in his arms and wants to resume their mushroom festival, and Elf embarrassingly asks him to put on his shirt first. Miltina seems worried about something, that is why the Holy Beast incident is spreading among spirits, and she is not sure if only spirits know about this. We see Burna's palace of Central Yulikai. A man reports to a woman in authority named Aesfa about the completion of an investigation on Hope of Tower. She finds the details interesting and commands him to bring Crow and his friends. Crow gives Elf tea in a cute cup while telling her that Miltina recommended it. Elf drinks it, saying she can't believe Miltina recommended such crap. Crow informs that the cup is what he chose, and Miltina recommended he buy matching cups. It makes Elf blush. Suddenly, a man with the army knocks at the door and speaks after making Crow and Elf attentive. It is an order from the magistrate to report to the palace at once. Crow opens the door while Elf is hiding behind the door and asks him if he can't visit palace another day. They have other things to do. A shady girl appears, saying she does not mind, but if they know the status of Miltina, she is already in their hands. Crow and Elf visit the palace along with the army and are presented to Consul Aesfa. Elf shouts at her to ask where Miltina is. Aesfa finds her very energetic and says she will see Bellus's daughter soon, but before that, they have to answer a few questions. A few days ago, there was an incident occurred at the Tower of Hope. A pillar of light came out at the top of the tower, then a beast flew away. She did research and came across interesting information about them, that a person saw they disappeared on entering the tower. So she thought to ask who were involved, and she does not know how much Miltina knows about it. Elf gets worried about Miltina and asks Aesfa what she did with Miltina. Aesfa says in an evil tone that she gave a little hospitality to Miltina, but too much good treatment resulted in her pain. Elf loses her temper and asks Alciphon to transform right in front of them. It is the Holy Beast that she released from the tower. She is serious and asks Aesfa to hand over Miltina. Miltina appears, asking Elf what the hell she is doing. Elf turns to her and finds Akane is also with her. She goes to Miltina in worry and asks her if her body is alright. Miltina informs her that she ate too much fruit while waiting, so she went aside for a while. Elf puts her head on Miltina's chest and embarrassingly calls her Flowerhead. Aesfa seems to be listening and watching all. She understands it's all Elf's doing. Instead of brewing hatred and conflicts, she gladly asks them to have a drink together and talk about their adventures. They sit across the table presented with food and drinks and talk about the tower incident. She is grateful to them because of the hole they created. She got a lot of amanite ore and made a lot of money. But she never thought there would be such a powerful beast inside. Elf asks them not to forget she is the owner of the Holy Beast. Aesfa now turns to Crow and says she heard he was the one who accepted her request of subjugation of the jet black barbarian princess. Listening to this, Elf does a great gulp while eating. Crow agrees with Aesfa that he was the one who accepted the request to capture the detestable thief barbarian princess, but failed to eliminate her. She had ultimate strength that he was knocked out in an instant. Elf blushes after listening to it and turns to Miltina, who gives a smug look to Elf. Meanwhile, Akane also gets into thoughts that he heard the name of a barbarian princess somewhere. Crow asks Aesfa the reason for requesting the barbarian princess's subjugation. She informs them that barbarian princess attacked and robbed their caravans on their way, even before she settled into the ruins of that fort. It seems she made a rampage in the neighboring country. She heard that nobles of neighboring countries gave up on her subjugation due to her ferocity. So she decided it was dangerous to leave this matter unattended. Elf turns gloomy after listening to rumors about her. Aesfa continues that no one got injured during the caravan attack, and in neighboring countries, opinions on her are split up between nobles and commoners. Nobles call her a merciless demon and commoners call her the goddess of salvation. Elf stands up and asks Crow to get going as she's full now. Asafa turns to her and asks why she is hurrying, if she can't stay the night, or if there is some reason she does not want to stay. Elf says there is no such thing, she is terrible at lying and one can see through her face. Miltina supports her and says they are happy to stay there. Elf also agrees with her. Asafa commands her minions to prepare beds for them, but before that, she lets her guests take baths. Akane, Miltina, and Elf are in the same bath. Akane admires Asafa that she is a nice person, but Elf disagrees and badmouths her. The person in charge of their bath refrains Elf from saying bad things about Asafa and tells them her good deeds and tales. Asafa caused a revolution in the city, which was once a base for slave trading in the continent. She is a person full of compassion who gave a place to live to those who lost their parents. They come out of the bath and are provided with loungewear. Asafa comes and offers them drinks after the bath, however, Elf is in the distance and refuses to drink them. Asafa finds her a strange girl. She is feeling well but is not drinking. Elf shouts at her what if she was a barbarian princess, then would she behave in the same way? Asafa gets suspicious of whatever Elf says and agrees to treat the princess the same way if she follows the rules of the city and acknowledges each other without hurting or stealing. It melts Elf's heart that she comes back to drink it and requests for more by saying she won't let Asafa's concern waste away. These girls are shown to their separate rooms, but strangely, they show Elf a room to stay with Crow. He is standing with his stone, emotionless face and says she seems to be worried about something. It makes Elf embarrassed, and she yells at them, "What's with these weird ideas?" Elf wakes up and recalls she is in Asafa's place. She could barely sleep because of that guy. But it turns out to be Miltina who grabs her even while sleeping. They come outside as it is time to leave. Miltina thanks Asafa for whatever she has done, and Asafa invites Miltina and the couple to visit again. By couple, she means Crow and Elf, and it makes Elf angry that to whom she is calling a couple. Asafa teases her more by apologizing first and then saying she can't believe they have not signed a marriage contract. As always, Elf gets hyped up and Crow does not seem to take interest. Crow and Elf return to their home. Elf is all sleepy and complains that it would be okay to travel with Alsifan as Asafa already knows him. But as soon as they reach home, Crow gets surprised to see someone at his door and decides to go back city. Elf asks him who he is and learns he is Crow's acquaintance, a hero. Hero's sight falls on Crow and he flies towards him. Elf is shocked that he is too strong to make Crow shake. Hero looks at Elf and grabs her hand while crying. He is glad because he never thought a day would come when Crow would make his friends. He turns to Crow, and before he says anything, Crow refuses him because he knows Hero has come to take Crow and the party back. Hero becomes serious and says there is an oracle that the resurrection of the Demon King is near and that if he revives, disaster will be brought into the continent. He wants Crow's strength to stop the resurrection of the Demon King and save the continent. But Crow bluntly refuses him. Continental peace is important, but looking after his guest is more important. He is weighing the future of the continent against personal hospitality with a 1:9 ratio for Elf. Hero becomes furious that Crow has really changed. He compares Crow's feelings for Elf, heat, straightforwardness, and innocence with a diamond club. Hero decides to retreat for now and says he is sure Crow would help him like that time, and until then they should nurture their love. Elf is baffled and blushed. Akane and Miltina are outside, and Akane initiates a conversation with a serious face that she needs to tell her a painful fact. It's about Elf's identity, that she is the jet black barbarian princess, and probably she is in collusion with Crow. Unexpected to Akane, Miltina smiles and says that Akane also has learned it. Akane pauses and shockingly asks her if she is also a part of that gang. We see Crow and others riding over Alsifan, and Miltina thanks Crow for Quest's invitation. Elf interrupts her that she is thanking the wrong person. Crow explains the situation. The scene shifts to back when they both go to Quest agency. Crow has come to get E-ranked Quest, but receptionist informs him that Lady Asafa has planned a quest for him and Elf. Initially, Elf becomes enraged that it's too early for Asafa to use her, but listens to others surprised about this fact and wondering who that Elf is. It makes her feel proud, and she accepts that request with a pointy nose. Presently, she says that it's a request that she received. Akane confirms from Crow that this quest is about eliminating monsters that appear near the highway, but the problem is traffic. Elf alerts Miltina and asks her to be careful. This quest is not like the last one. Miltina is glad Elf is worrying about her, and if it's a dangerous quest, she would like to participate for her friend. Elf becomes emotional and looks back at Miltina, who is smiling, and then looks ahead to say she does not remember being friends with Miltina. Miltina becomes silent, and Akane informs Elf that Miltina looks strange. Elf looks back at Miltina, who is making weird faces, and yells at her not to make faces like that. She has no friends. They reach the destination, investigate in village, and learn there are monsters around a certain tree. Along the way, they see Miltina is still making faces. Elf feels guilty about it and tells her about the past, that there was a stranger among those with whom she traveled. He called her friend, but in the end, he feared her power and left. If she wants to call Elf a friend, then she does as she likes, but as long as Elf has this cursed power, she might leave her. But before Elf finishes her story, Miltina grabs her from behind and becomes energetic again to exterminate those monsters. The tree is right ahead of them. Elf moves first and asks them to stand behind as it's the quest only she received. She is brimming with pride of her cursed power, but upon crossing the tree, she finds a titan eagle standing there who looks at them. Miltina is worried that it looked at us and asks Elf what she is going to do, but Elf has lost her stand and is making faces this time. There is a large eagle, griffin standing, and Elf has lost strength in her legs. She nervously hides behind Miltina and says she can show her true strength when she curses from the shadows. Griffin growls loudly, making them intimidate and be prepared for his attack, but he turns towards the tree. Crow suggests the conversation with Griffin, as he is said to be an intelligent monster. Crow wants to take the initial step, but Elf insists on talking with him. She is a coward and does not go ahead alone, but pushes Miltina and others to move on. She shouts at him and asks him to leave this place at once. He says something that only Elf can understand, and she deciphers it to others that he did not want to stay long. It's just he buried something important here, a human. It all started when a human treated his wounds that he got in battle with the dragon. He was a stranger who was not afraid of him. It made him interested in that human and accompanied him on trips. He saw light belts in the northern sky and a horde of butterflies covering the jungle in the south, and went to a lot of different places. But before he knew that humans got old and his last wish was to be buried in the land of his birth. Even humans' last was granted. He could not move, and thousands of sight he saw seemed to be disappearing. Elf shows her sympathy and encourages him to move on without getting rotten here, but that eagle is smart and the next step ahead. He does not plan to stay here forever and has made up his mind to go. Elf asks him what he is planning to do and learns that he wants to see more world because it was human's last phrase. He will look around in his stead and will come once in a while to inform him about it. After saying it, he finally spreads his feathers and flies in the sky. She wishes him blessing with good scenery and good encounters. She looks back and sees Miltina crying and saying to build a good relationship together. Crow also has the same feelings. She gets emotional for a second, but turns to the other and bluntly refuses them. She has no intention of getting along together with them. Akane calls Elf as she is worried about something. Elf kind of knows that it might be Miltina's weird face, but look at Crow's face, that he is crying with blood tears. On the other side, Asifa receives a report about a current incident that there was no power exposed yet in sight. It's good for her, and she is looking forward to it.